Have you ever optioned or bought a screenplay?
I have optioned and bought screenplays, yeah. Under Treasure Entertainment.
Oh, okay.
So before I went freelance, yeah, we used to all the time. And a lot of them came from our clients as well.
Can you take us through the process? Sorry.
Yeah. So, in terms of at least when, in Treasure Entertainment, when we would, part of what I liked about managing clients is you had this in-house stable of talent that you could draw from. So if we had identified something in the market, an opportunity, or for some reason we wanted to do a certain type of picture, I had clients in-house. I said, hey, what about one of these ideas? Because this is something that we're thinking about doing. If we can develop this with you and get it to the point where I think it's strong, maybe we'll option it from you guys, or we'll buy it. So not to say we didn't shop around, but it kind of allowed us to just get exactly what we wanted, working with the writer and then getting it to, okay, this is what we want. Okay, we'll option it now. As opposed to scouring the marketplace trying to find that exact kind of thing we wanted. But once we identified a strong project, either something that we came across or something that we had a client create with our help, the optioning process was pretty simple. I mean, a lot of times we just do 1 year option with a 1 year renewal period, and whatever sort of modicum of, depending on the size of the film, options can be. We pay anything from $1 just to, if it's, real development writer and they're like, look, I just want to get it out there. And it's like, all right, well, let's just see if we can get this thing out here. We're putting our sweat equity into it. So it might just be a $1. You have to have something called consideration. There has to be something from this side going to this side to make it legal. And even if that's $1, here's $1, here's your script. And an option is just basically saying, you can't sell it to anyone else during this period. We have the exclusive right to shop it, to set it up, or to buy it during this period. And if we exercise the option here, we'll give you $10,000, $20,000, whatever the amount is. And then the option is exercised. So it gives us the option to buy it exclusively for that period. Or we might have optioned things up to, $1,000 or $2,000. I mean, it just depended on the size of the project. It was all indie stuff. So, they weren't getting $10,000 options, but $500 or whatever it is. And then that applies against the purchase price. So if you option something for $500 and you're going to buy the script for 20 grand, that 500 is typically applied against the 20. So you pay the 19.5 if you decide to buy it. Although those deals can be structured however you want. So yeah, I think that was, that's kind of how we approached it was, hey, in-house talent, awesome. And because we were their managers and they saw all the sweat equity we were putting into trying to get their career off the ground and the project, a lot of times we could option a script for a lot less than if we had just found it and they didn't know us and they were like, well, I want $3,000 for this, We had already built this relationship, and so it was a good, it was a good system. It worked for us.
What about life story rights?
Yeah, I'm working on a project right now actually called Walking on Palmettos with writer Jim Christel and Ed Asner, who like screen legend, good old Ed. And the story is based on a real life person, Miles Richards, who's very actively involved in the project as well as an executive producer. And he had met Jim many years ago through a mutual friend, and Jim found this guy's story so interesting. He sat down, he interviewed him like a tape recorder for hours. I mean, I don't know, it was like maybe a couple days worth of interviews, but he's like, wow, this guy's story is so interesting, and decided, this is the kind of story that would make a great. At first, I think he was thinking about a TV show, but then he decided, let me make this into a script, a feature script. And I got involved when Jim came to me and asked me to do a budget. And it's a fairly large picture, I would say. It's like almost maybe even studio mid-level kind of budget. And I got, did the budget, and Jim was very happy with the work and asked me if I would come on and as a producer and work with him on it. And I came on board and I asked him, I said, do you have the Miles life rights? This guy Miles, it's an extraordinary, kind of human being. He was actually a marijuana smuggler, and had started when he was like 21 or something, and smuggled his first batch of marijuana from Jamaica. He was working on the Playboy Club. His father owned the construction company that was building the Playboy Club in Jamaica, and he went there for a summer to work on it, and that's where he got involved in marijuana. and started smuggling it. And his first load when he was like 21, he made like $250,000. This is in the 60s.
Oh, wow.
And so, right. So the thing about Miles was he never did a load the same way twice. There's always some innovative way. And the story goes into a couple of these. I mean, there were so many different ways, but like he sank a ship off the coast of Florida on purpose, loaded with water-sealed bags of marijuana, filed for a permit to do a salvage operation. So the Coast Guard got to know him. And then they're salvaging, bringing up parts of the boat with, the marijuana in it. And the Coast Guard's like right there and they had no idea. I mean, he came with these ingenious,
Wow.
So it took the DEA like 15 years to even know who he was, another 5 years to catch him. And, it's very much Catch Me If You Can, Goodfellas, like tonally, like the likable criminal.
Sure.
That you follow over, Wolf of Wall Street, you follow over 20 years of their life, kind of that kind of arc and their comeuppance and sort of, this sort of life trajectory as Miles did go to prison. He was there for 11 years. He was in solitary confinement for 4 years. Came out a very different person. Then he started a whole legal business in construction, became a millionaire legally. But it was a really interesting story. And I asked, do you have Miles' life rights for this? And he didn't. I said, well, that's the first thing we need to do. And so, we went to Miles. And at that point, we had already worked with him long enough that he knew us and trusted us. I mean, I had talked to him on the phone. I've never met him personally, but I talked to him on the phone. Jim had, been dealing with him for years. And so I had a life rights option drafted up and Miles signed off on it. I mean, we had certain agreements with him that we wouldn't, while we can take creative license, that there were certain things we wouldn't do. Miles wanted to make sure the smuggling was depicted realistically. He's like, look, just don't have anybody running around with a suitcase of $1 million that looks like this. He's like, I know what $1 million looks like in a suitcase and $1,500 bills. And it's not like what they look like in these movies where it's, these big suitcases stacked to the brim with hundreds. And he's like, that's not what $1 million. Like, it was just stuff like he wanted us to stay true to a lot of the aspects, even if we took creative license with, let's say, some of the FBI guys that were chasing him or his lawyers. In the script, there's one main lawyer that sort of deals with his case. But he's an amalgamation of many lawyers. In real life, there was many lawyers. It wasn't this one guy. So things like that were okay, but he wanted to make sure the smuggling was treated accurately. And so, we agreed to the things that he wanted. And yeah, he signed off on that life rights option. It really gave us creative control of the project and the ability to sort of take the story within those bounds, within those parameters where we wanted to.
And so just as an option expires, then someone's life rights expire as well, and then they're free to use them with another production company?
They could. We have it so that we have a certain term, and then it automatically renews for extended periods unless one of us cancels it. So as long as Miles is happy, I mean, it's going to keep renewing unless he gives us written notice within 30 days of when the expiration is.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh. And when does that come out, by the way?
Well, we're working toward trying to get it off the ground for top of 2019 in terms of production. So this is I mentioned earlier a project we were looking at possibly shooting in Australia. There's maybe some tax incentives we can take advantage of. Plus, a lot of the picture takes place in Southern California and the Caribbean, and so Australia has locations that could really play for both because the Caribbean really looks very different than Southern California. Caribbean's very flat, white sands, different type of palm trees, different type of water, just a different type of look. The people, I mean, it's very different, but yet Australia, I think, has options for us that can play for both. So that's something we've been looking at.